Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? Part 3. Boy, I got some thoughts here for you guys. I really do. But it's going to go a different direction, I think. And let's come back to what I was talking about earlier. I've known a fair number of people in my life. A fair number. I don't know. I'm not sure. No one can really. It's hard to know. It's not a question of how many people you've known. It's a question of how deep your relationships are. And there's often a lot you can really do about your lot in life until your situation's different. I don't know. I just don't know. But I'm going to start this train of thought with someone I knew who was a bit older than I was, who was a next door neighbor, or a member of a family that were our next door neighbors when I was younger. She was older than I was. She was nice. She had her great qualities. I kind of saw her as being like, I definitely saw her as being older than me. She was older than me. I kind of deferred to her. I kind of, how can I put this? Whenever I saw her, or whenever she was at my house, or whenever we would be doing stuff, or I was friends with her younger brothers and stuff. Whenever I saw this person, I acted a certain way that was, of course, a little bit differently than my normal behavior. You know, in other words, I was more respectful. I was more. I was very careful with what I said and how I said things. You wouldn't believe how many people that are women that are members of my church that I've acted this way around. And also how many times I felt like those efforts were basically either in vain or taken for granted, or sometimes, some points, I acted especially poised and polite because I was very interested in the girl romantically. Yeah. But let's get back to this girl because my thoughts are more pleasant about this person in general because, as it turns out with this person, my efforts to be very kind and respectful toward her, and I truly was always very kind and respectful, but there were occasionally times when she was a little bit intense, a little cross with me. At least one time that I can remember, and boy was I nervous, boy was I scared, in a very different way. I'd rarely been in that situation where somebody older than me, not too much older, but not, trust me, we're only talking about a handful, less than a handful of years, but I saw her as my senior, like an older sister in a way. But I was a little bit beside myself. But it wasn't traumatic. It wasn't something that made me cry. I was just like, whoa, you know. When she was upset, I can't remember why she was upset. I just remember, I remember I was like, okay, okay, I'm sorry, okay, and that's basically the situation resolved itself. I mentioned this because, and also, yes, all these other things, all my other, so many times, all the relationships I've had with women, in a way, in general, you know, and again, when I was younger, this is the way I was raised. I was like, you treat women like your sister, right? These are all these Mormon quotes, right? You hear this quote, like, the way you treat your sister is the way that you're going to treat your wife. And trust me, man, I have so many more of these quotes I could mention. but, but again, like I mentioned, uh, I didn't feel like they were always reciprocated. You don't always feel like that your efforts are being reciprocated, or even looking at this whole subject and related subjects, because this is all related. There's these traditions in Europe and Asia, for instance. All these traditions that have been around for I don't know how long, and some of them have to do with how you speak to your betters, quote unquote. And you hear that quote, that very quote, like in Baldur's Gate or in Fantasy Adventure. And of course we're talking about European or English or French. This is very Western Europe kinds of train of thought here with the old class system, and they had a class system or a caste system, caste in India. In Asia, yeah, yep, you have your different people in different social standings. We just don't. We're not quite as familiar with the hierarchy of social standings, being European Americans or being someone like myself. It's not something that we're especially aware of because we're not Japanese or Korean or Chinese or whatever. But they definitely have. Europe, things are a lot different than they used to be. It's true. Eastern Europe, maybe not quite as much change, but some, but just not as much. Asia's more like Eastern Europe, but even more so. Except Japan and Korea, of course, more westernized. But you're talking about. There's some things that really have not changed so much. Some things. For instance, if you're talking to a girl's dad, you're interested romantically in a girl, or whatever, something approaching that, or something in that line of thought, it doesn't really matter what the race of dad is. If you're talking about American dad, typical American dad, if they feel like you're a decent guy, it's okay. When you're younger, like in your teens, or in 20s, like, don't be out too late, right? If you get to a certain age, people are on their own. And parents want to at least know that the person that their daughter or son is interested in is a more respectable person, I guess, depending on what the parents are like. But you can get some very trashy parents, and everybody's different. And I don't know, there's all these different things that come into play with dating. But I would just imagine, I don't know this for sure, I've never been to Japan. I've known some Chinese girls, like I said, Chinese American or Chinese tend to be very traditional, even for the folks I've known. But, dads are dads, worldwide. But when you're talking, oh man, like seriously, man, talking to a Japanese girl's dad, for instance, man, you better believe I'm going to be on my best behavior. My very best behavior. Like, I'm talking, I don't know, like, I'm going to be reading books, pamphlets, not the online stuff, but also, I'm going to make sure I do my best to, be Mr. Polite. Absolutely. Why would I not want to be that way? I mentioned Japan because Japan is one of these countries where etiquette is pretty important, it seems. And then usually when people get to know you better, it's a different deal somewhat, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. This is the sort of stuff that really bothers me because people put way too much stock in first impressions. They just do. We all, it's wrong. It's very wrong. Very, very, very wrong. Very wrong. But not completely wrong. Just depends. But people can change. But we get wrong ideas by people all the time. We're not gods. I mean, we don't see things as God. We won't get into that right now. But the thing is yeah, we all kind of know who we will tend to be a bit more respectful around. If somebody does something, though, to cause us to lose respect for them, that's an elder, right? Well, that's happened to me before, too. Oh, yeah. Yep. That's not a pleasant... That's not something pleasant at all. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. To have a boss, for instance, who acts like they're a 15-year-old, and they have the most, basically all their lives. Who wants that experience? None of us. But yet, you're talking about the president of a company, and I don't know. You guys think I'm talking about? It sounds like I'm talking about Trump, right? You know, honestly, working for Trump, if I worked for Trump, I wouldn't see it as a career thing, but I already know what to expect from the man. I've seen the Celebrity Apprentice, and I know it's a TV show. I know how many people he's fired. Not just as a president. I know how many businesses have failed. I know what kind of person Trump is. So if Trump liked my work, if he if he was good to go, if he wasn't, either way, I'm already fully 100% saying to myself, this is not a person that I would really want to be in my inner circle, so to speak. I don't want to dislike Trump, but I can't do it. No, Trump is not the sort of person I would want in my inner circle. So, regardless how much so many conservatives seem to like him sometimes, and I get these messages all the time. People in my own church, and also quite the opposite. People saying we can't let him win. It's ridiculous, stupid. It's stupid, folks. It's just stupid. But I voted for Evan McMullen in the last election. Evan McMullen. Sorry, his name is a little bit. That's who I voted for. Straight up. It wasn't Trump. It wasn't Clinton. Definitely wasn't Clinton. It was McMullen. So, getting back to my topic at hand here. Yeah. No, I mean, I think I've treated people that like me very much and very close to me, sometimes very poorly. And I've treated people that really didn't care all that much about me very well. And that was not right. But some of that was thinking I had to do this to keep a job or to something, I don't know. It's all these societal, cultural expectations. All this plays into being a moderator because all of our experiences in life will kind of shape how we do something. So if I know I wouldn't want to be. I mean, no, I would not want to be a moderator. Definitely not. Definitely not. But if I was, what kind of moderator would I be? Well, you guys know that we're talking about being a content creator. I'm in charge of my own channel. YouTube lets me delete comments I don't like. And by the way, I've had one comment that was quite off color. No, actually, it wasn't even off color. It was just it was basically a link to a pornographic website. It was on one of my channels. Yeah. Not happy about that, but that got deleted. I don't want anybody. No, that's not happening. So yeah, but what kind of moderator would I be? Well, it's if I was a moderator for somebody else's channel, the first question I would have is why would I want to do that? I want to be in charge of my own channel. There's so many people on some channel I had. I just couldn't do it all. I couldn't do a live stream. I couldn't whatever. And look at the comments at the same time. I mean, this is too much to do. If that's too much to do, so I would have to get a moderator, right? Or if I was that moderator for somebody else's channel. Again, I mentioned this before. Some things would definitely not fly, but instead of putting someone in timeout, you give someone a warning before you put them in timeout, because that lets a person know that, hey, whatever you posted, um, someone is not cool with that. But we understand that you're not like bosom buddies with this person that you're watching right now. It's not like you know their every little nook and cranny of their personality. So because you don't know, I mean, we don't know, this is an online thing, and because the rules and the whatever etiquette, about chats, because it's so vague and nebulous and changing from channel to channel and person to person and platform to platform, we're going to give you a warning. I'm going to give you a warning first before timeout. That's only fair. If you go right to timeout, I personally, I don't even believe in timeouts. I don't. You give a bunch of warnings and you ban. If you go straight to a ban, I mean, that has to be something pornographic in the extreme. Like somebody actually posting a link to a website that's pornographic. Somebody showing a picture that's pornographic. That's an instant ban. Vast majority of things that you could say, and I truly do mean the vast majority of things that you could say, are not instant bans. They're just warnings. Why? Well, they should be. Why is that? Because this is an online communication we're talking about. This is not real life communication. In real life, when someone says something that rubs someone the wrong way, do we have timeouts or warning timeouts or bans? No, we have someone that looks at you funny, someone that ignores you, someone that pretends to like what you said or tries to laugh sincerely, but it comes off a little fake. We have people that try to be someone else. We have people that, when they're around somebody, you can just keep going. I mean, there's limitless ways that you can either be sincere or insincere or anxious or whatever it is about anybody and any kind of behavior. And it never ends. But online, it's just so not organic. It's not as real. So the way to make it more real is by at least communicating to everybody, trying to say something along the lines of, because this is such a impersonal thing we're doing here, warnings are the way to go about this stuff rather than timeouts or bans. Please know that these are the things that would result in an instant ban. Those are the things that everybody should know about. And I do mean everyone. That should be very much clear. The timeouts and the warnings can be less clear, but to eliminate the timeout, why would you have a timeout? Why? It doesn't make any sense. No grown adult wants to be put in timeout. No teenager wants to be put in timeout. It's insulting. It makes someone not want to be involved in the channel. You might as well ban someone. You might as well. I mean, there's so many other channels to watch. There's so many other things to do. There's no point. There's just no point. Give them a warning. give them a warning. Don't do timeouts, moderators. Just don't do it. And I've explained why in the last 3 videos, including this one. And I'm explaining why communication is such a complex thing here. This is complex. And even if talking about online communication, it's complex because communication between humans are complex as it is anyway. And you're communicating electronically or online. How is that supposed to make it any easier? It doesn't. It actually makes it more cryptic, less personal, less warm-hearted. Probably not so fun. But probably also maybe less angering. When you have something go south in real life, that can be really upsetting. And a lot of us don't want to have any more of those experiences. A lot of us avoid those experiences. In some shape, way, shape, or form, it's happening, but yet, there's no substitute for that with online stuff. It's just, that being the case, it's, even though you can't actually see someone, it's no reason to be a butthead if you're a moderator. Moderators are just like other chatters. They're no better. They have no more authority. Respect my authority. I don't respect any moderator's authority, quote unquote. I don't respect any of their authority. They have no authority. Do the police have authority? We give them authority. Anyone can get a gun. They can buy a gun. And anyone can point a gun at you. It can force you to do something you don't want to do. Anyone can do that. Now, it's against the law. That person has to deal with the cops. But there are areas of the world and there are situations where cops can't get to that situation. I'm telling you, man, when it comes to authority is very much misunderstood. It's very misunderstood. I don't care who it is. I don't care what they're doing. I'm talking about myself here because I'm a music teacher. Music teachers have some kind of authority. So we think sometimes we need to have some kind of authority to do what we're doing. But the second we abuse it, it's gone. I don't care who you're talking about, what kind of authority you're talking about. Unless you're God himself, every kind of authority, and even God has to be perfect. Otherwise, he ceases to be God. Right? But every imperfect person that's in a position of authority, it's not permanent. It's not innate. It's certainly not something to be domineering over anyone else about. And we all say this. We all know this. It doesn't matter if it's a boss at work. It doesn't matter if it's a government leader. It doesn't matter if it's a policeman, a policewoman, whatever, a police person. That's why it's just easier saying a cop. It doesn't matter if it's traffic safety folks or firefighters. It just doesn't matter. Whatever authority people have, even parents, for crying out loud, in some respects, yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh man, I hate to bring that word parents in there. I would rather leave that alone. But it just doesn't matter what the kind of authority you're talking about. Unless you're perfect, unless you're God, there is a limit. There are limits. And even, again, God himself still has to be righteous. He has to be perfectly righteous in order to be God. A policeman just can't pull his gun on anybody. But there is an authority that can be derived from having a dangerous weapon of sorts, or being trained in martial arts, or being a dangerous fighter. That being, nobody wants to get killed or hurt by this person. Guns are associated with that, obviously. But is that authority or is that power? Well, it's power. But having more power can put someone in a position of authority. The older brother in a family, amongst siblings, the oldest brother is in a position of authority when the parents are gone, or the older sister, or whatever it is. Why? Because they're bigger, they're more intelligent than the younger kids. And how many times do we hear about older brothers and sisters being not nice to their siblings? Well, it happens, unfortunately. You'd think that, if dad or mom was unrighteous or abusive to kids, that would be much more serious, and it definitely is. But you can have some really bad things that older siblings can do to younger siblings. Some very bad things. And the way I was as the oldest in my family was, I was definitely not that mean older brother. Quite the opposite. Hopefully that was something that's going to be helping me out in my life. I don't know, but this is, mentioning this, by the way, how many people know that about me? And they don't have to know that. But if any idiot, and I truly mean this sincerely, if any idiot anywhere makes a moral judgment of me, a moral judgment that's, more far-reaching, more serious in its tone, hey, I'm just asking, what kind of older brother was I? Do you know? Of course, that person wouldn't know. My response to them would be, so how the heck are you fit to judge me? So what, does a moderator judge people? No. They don't morally judge people. But what is the feeling you get when you get penalized in a live chat? What's the feeling like when you get penalized by your school teacher in public school? It's embarrassing. It's insulting. And on some level it is. And a lot of people just don't do live chats because they don't want to deal with all that crud. A lot of people do. Just they're not involved. Period. I happen to be a person who, if I'm in the mood, why not? Why not? But the more good experiences I have with live chats, the more I'm inclined to say, well, why not? But the more this stuff happens with moderators that, think that they have some kind of authority. No, I don't have any time for that stuff, man. I still have time for content creators. I still have time for their channels. I still have time for them to, figure out stuff or not. And I can be very forgiving of other people. Very much so. You can be very aware of the fact that this is all online. We're going to have limits in terms of how much we understand about other people. And all that stuff. Why should we be so hurt? Why should I be so hurt by something that is not as real life? Well, you tell me, folks. Because if you're like me, on some level, to some small degree at least, some of our socializing is online. So on some small level, to some degree, some small way, when something goes south, it ain't gonna feel good. I hope I'm making myself very clear. I truly hope I do. Authority is never permanent unless you're God. And God still has to be perfect. But when you become perfect, in my opinion, my theology, you're not going to go back the other direction. But that's just my opinion. It's a theological belief, but God is the only entity. He's the only entity that has permanent authority. I think parents are up there too, but only as they're righteous parents. If you have wicked parents, abusive parents, they're going to lose that authority at some point. Yeah. Yep. And any other kind of career job involving authority, it's all temporary. We're all going to die. We're all going to retire. Maybe I'll end this video with something that's a little bit unrelated, but still is related. The movie Rambo, John Rambo. He went from being in charge of $1 million equipment, as he said, having all this responsibility and purpose, and went from that to being a citizen, a private citizen again. Everybody treated him like crap because it was hard for him to adjust to the way things were in the United States after the Vietnam War. But he was a little scuzzy looking, but everyone assumed that he was a bum when he was really a war veteran. It's about self-esteem on some level. It's about so many of these things that go on beneath the surface in our own characters and hearts and souls. It's about things that are not, certainly not electronics and online stuff. That's very not organic. And if you make technology and you make social, whatever, websites more human, more organic, that's a step in the right direction. Otherwise, we're going to keep having situations on more or less kind of like John Rambo for any of us, when we're all going to go through these Vietnam Wars, so to speak, or these return homes from Vietnam Wars. We're all going to go through this stuff on some level. And we're going to sometimes feel like we're super responsible for a lot of things and lots of authority. Other times, none. The main thing is, just be humble about it. Just be for real.